And this is what I want to do, working with the boroughs, saying now it has to be 120 days. Here's the condition. And if it doesn't happen, then we'll be able to say like, well, why is this borough so complicated? Why is it not working?
So you want to hear from builders then if they're running into roadblocks?
Oh, absolutely. But that being said, the rules, this new norm and everything we've been doing around housing, it's not the city alone that makes those decisions. We've been working closely with the private sector and the non-for-profit, developers, builders. This is why this is so strong, and I feel confident.
Valerie Plante, Mayor of Montreal, in conversation with Caroline Van Vlaardingen over at CTV News. Some recent tough talk from the mayor. She says the city is going to impose a 120-day deadline for boroughs to issue building permits. That declaration came on the same day that a report showed that some boroughs are taking up to 610 days to issue building permits, and that wait times have doubled in the last 4 years. We've spoken to a couple of voices from Projet Montréal this week on the subject. Now let's speak to Alan DeSousa from the official opposition at Ensemble Montreal. And of course, he is the borough mayor in Saint-Laurent. Alan, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Elias. Thanks for having me on.
So, obviously, the numbers look terrible that La Presse reported earlier in the week in so many boroughs and significant increases. Mayor says, okay, that's over, 120 days. What's your reaction?
Well, it seems like the mayor's come and found religion rather late in the game. I mean, she's in the 7th year of her mandate, and in her own borough, where she is mayor in Ville-Marie, clearly, I can say there's been no improvement. It's gotten worse. All of this would be nice and would have some credibility, but for two things. One is that Projet Montréal had 7 years to do something about it and did absolutely nothing, and is now waking up and scrambling, flailing around looking for solutions. But the other piece is that, do they have any credibility? I mean, we see time and time again, they have done and created an environment where no one wants to develop any development. We've seen housing starts go down. We've seen developers fleeing their policies. When they say, and I heard one of the representatives say that we want to create an environment where people want to do business and want to build. Well, let me just say that I think they've destroyed that environment that we used to have where people wanted to do business. And that is just not there. Projet Montréal has taken a hammer to that.
So I'll tell you something, right? The numbers back up your argument for the most part. Ville-Marie has gone from just over 200 days to 540 days. I really like Maya Vodanovich over in Lachine, but my goodness, that record in the last 4 years here, they were under 90 days for a building permit, and now it's 543 days. So that's like over 500%. So I'm looking at a lot of boroughs run by Projet Montréal, and there were increases. I do need to point out, Alan, Saint-Laurent, you were under 100 days 4 years ago, or 2019. 2023, you're up to 157 days. Now, let me tell you, 50% increase, way better than 500% increase. I will give you that. But there was an increase. Are there certain challenges now that didn't exist before that are making delays just go up as a matter of course and maybe don't necessarily imply that there's mismanagement involved?
Well, take a look at Saint-Laurent. I mean, the period in question is from 2019 to 2023. So cut into the time, Elias, where there was the COVID, and that obviously had an impact of why our numbers are slowing down. But look, from what we've done in Saint-Laurent, we did last year, 2023, we issued $590 million of permits. Not small potatoes. We're carrying the city on our back. We're doing it in one of the lowest times that you can see as identified in the press research. And as you know, and I invite you and any of your listeners to come and visit, we have no problems building housing in Saint-Laurent. We have builders who want to build. Not only do they want to build, they build it in record time, but they also build quality buildings. We are the biggest LEED certified center of buildings in Quebec, in Saint-Laurent. So if we can do it in shorter periods of time, if we can do it in the quantity that is I think, quite remarkable. And if we can build quality buildings where people can live and want to play and have fun and locate in, then we must be doing something right. And so our administration, my administration, has worked very hard to make sure that notwithstanding the processes and the delays that Montrealers might face in other parts, that we can pull the load and show how it can be done.
A year from now, we really will be getting into gear for a municipal election. With that in mind, how are you going to use this issue, housing, building delays to build the housing it's clear we all need? How are you going to use this issue, your party going to use this issue as an election tool?
Well, I think it's a question of competence, okay? The plant administration has set all types of targets, but is never able to deliver. And I think one of the things that citizens want is they want the goods to be delivered. I'll give you an example why we are able to reduce our numbers in issuing permits. Many communities take a break during the summer on their council meetings, right? In January, right after New Year's, they decide not to have a council meeting. In July, when it's time for to go on vacation, they cancel their council meeting. In our community in Saint-Laurent, we have never canceled that council meeting. We have doubled up on special meetings to pass files. And to give you an example, in summertime, which is a time when most homeowners, most businesses, most constructors are doing it, to take a break on July council meeting slows down the process. So that's one very simple way that all boroughs can do in terms of zoning changes, minor derogations, whatever they need to facilitate and make their files go faster. That's an easy one to do. And that doesn't require a whole bunch of investment or processes like the mayor was saying or anything like that. It just means that council does its work regularly and quickly, and in so doing, doesn't provide delays for those who do want to renovate or build.
Do you feel that housing is perhaps the mayor's weakest issue, the Projet Montréal's weakest issue, as you look at things to target them on as we get closer and closer to another election? How weak of a hand do you think they're playing here?
This administration is weak on many fronts because they've got a bad habit of promising things that they can't deliver. We've seen it on transport. We've seen it on social housing. We've seen it on housing as itself. Look at this. I mean, just imagine this. They're promising 20,000 units in Blue Bonnets. And anyone in the business sector you can talk to Andrew Lipke, talk to anyone else, they said no one's ever knocked on their door. Now, if they seem to think that they can do all of this development without involving the private sector, clearly they're smoking something and something quite powerful. So I would say that they're weak on many fronts. The question is, are Montrealers willing to tolerate mediocrity? I hope not. So
on the counterpoint that I think Projet Montréal will throw back at Ensemble Montreal is, well, look at Griffintown. What an example of build, baby, build, and no planning about schools and green space and that kind of thing. How do you convince Montrealers that next time around you'll be able to build effectively but avoid some of the things we've seen in the past when your party was in charge?
Well, let's just say that Griffintown is like light years away. We're in a way where we're actually on every community making sure that we integrate the needs for infrastructure, whether it be schools, commercial development, green spaces, green corridors, you name it. Come to Saint-Laurent and I'll point out to the different things that we've done. We worked closely with our neighbor, Hanse-Cartierville, for example, around the old the Boisfront train station. That's going to be put in play next year. We know that people want to build. We did the consultation with citizens. We established the ground rules early in the game, and that way developers know what the rules are. If they want to build, they're not being impeded by the city. They can put a project together and move. And that type of planning is endemic across the community. So I'm not overly worried about that. I really think that in this case, I'll come down to one question, competence. Does the plant administration have the competence necessary? To date, they have not demonstrated. They do have the competence to make promises, but they don't have the competencies to deliver the goods.
Alan, we'll talk again real soon. You have a great day, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you again, Elias. Have a good weekend.
Alan DeSousa from the official opposition, spokesperson on finance matters for Ensemble Montreal.